Good morning, everybody. We have a fun day of electrical work ahead of us because we are going to be installing a 12-volt fridge right here in my trunk. You guys will recall in my last video, we went camping and my friend used this ice box here to be able to store some meat so that we could have some hamburgers at the campsite. And this was fantastic. This was like life-changing, being able to have a hot hamburger out in the middle of nowhere. The thing is, to be able to make something like this work, you need to buy ice for it. And so potentially, if you want to be able to keep meat, you need to buy ice every single day. That's like $2 to $3 a day just to be able to keep some stuff cold. Now, I don't like that. So what we're going to be doing instead is we're going to be installing an electric fridge right here using some electrical connection and this big battery right here. I know that some of you guys are new here, so you're not like familiar with the electrical setup I've got in my car. So I'm going to give you guys a rundown of how all of the electrical stuff currently works. The first thing I need to do is I need to clean out my trunk because we're going to need to get all up in here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this right here is the heart of the system. This is a very big battery. It's 2,500 watt hours, and you can see that there's wires kind of poking everywhere. There's all kinds of stuff. We are going to be cleaning all of this up because I don't want to light my car on fire when I install the fridge. So, this is the battery in the back, but there's really only one way to charge that, and that is from the alternator in the front. Let's pop the hood and show you how these two things connect. Now, if you're interested in setting up a fridge like this in your car, you don't actually need to find your alternator. Your alternator is basically a big chunk of metal that creates electricity for your entire car. You can tell it pretty easily because it's basically a big chunk of metal and it's got little tiny wires running all through it. When this spins, this creates 14 volts and it powers your entire car. It's what charges your starter battery. One of the most important things when you're setting up a system like this is to not kill your starter battery. If you leave your fridge running for a couple of days and then you go to start your car and this thing is dead, your car won't start. We'll talk about how to protect that in a second, but what I did is I connected this red wire right here to a 50 amp fuse, and this runs through the car, all the way to right here. This wire right here is connected directly to the starter battery. If I were to connect these two wires together, they would cause a short circuit and potentially light something on fire. When you are running your wire like this, it is very important to make sure there is a fuse, so that if I were to connect those two things together, this would just immediately pop. Let me show you what this looks like. Push this. Pop, disconnects it, make sure that nothing bad happens. If you're going to be running long wires like this from your starter battery, it has to be fused. But we already did that in a previous video, so we are safe on that front. If this orange thing is the battery, then this thing on top of the battery is the battery charger. This guy right here. If you're using an older battery like a lead acid battery, you don't need to deal with any of the fancy stuff like having battery chargers like this. The problem is that my battery is lithium. Lithium is really good at fast charging. You guys know how you can like plug a Tesla in and it'll charge from like 0 to 80 in 30 minutes or something like that. Lithium batteries are really good at fast charging, and this battery is no different. If you were to just connect the wires from the front of your car to the back of the car, plug them in, this would try fast charging itself every time you turn on your car. It would take every watt that your car produces and try to put it in the battery. Your alternator would literally melt. All this is basically an expensive dam. All of the electricity is trying to flow into the battery, but this stops it and only lets like 25 amps through. So this just slows down the amount of fast charge that this is able to do so you don't kill your alternator. It does other fancy stuff, but basically this makes it to where your alternator doesn't die. So when I connect this wire to the battery, basically all I'm doing is saying, hey, stop fast charging. With this, the battery will charge fast, but not so fast that my alternator melts. Another small advantage this has voltage protection to where it makes sure that it won't try charging the battery when the car is off. So this makes sure that my starter battery won't ever end up dead. But in order to get this fridge in here, we need to, God damn it. But in order to get this fridge in here, we need to rewire some stuff. I don't like how messy all of this shit is. This is what we need to get access to. This is a fuse box. Basically all of the things that I have in my car, my heated seats, my USB ports, all of those things, they are connected to fuses so that if I accidentally like spill water on something, I'm not gonna light my car on fire. We just need to add another circuit, which means another white wire and another black wire here. I think that the fridge takes 10 amp fuse, so we just need to add a couple wires and then run them here for the fridge. Silly me, I had it in the wrong direction. First thing I want to do, rather than having all of these things just strewn through here, I want to have them each like attached to the battery so I can just easily access them. This thing is the only thing that's permanently attached and I just randomly stuck it somewhere. To stick them, we are going to use these Velcro adhesive straps so that I can just glue them to each other like this, and then when I want to take something apart because I need to rewire it, the Velcro just comes off. So the fuse box, I want the fuse box to be like right here, so we will take the white part of this Velcro off. We'll take this, we will, god damn it, let go. Take the fuse box like that, and then take this side of the white Velcro off. And then we can just stick this in place, like that. Now, it's there, it's attached, but if I ever want to take it off, the Velcro just lets me do that. A big thing that I want to change about my system, you can see that there's all of these wires that are like kind of bunched up together and wrapped in electrical tape. This is not great. Basically, I've got a bunch of wires that all need to be connected to the hot side of this. So rather than coming up with like a creative way to do this, I just took a screw and a bolt and I bolted all of them together. I don't like this anymore. It worked in the time because it was really cold outside, but I can do better now. Okay, more things I want to change. This right here is a voltage booster. This takes the 12 volts from the battery and it bumps it up to 24 volts. The reason that I do that is because I have some really high power stuff in my car, like a heater and like a computer. And if I were to run those at 12 volts, the amperage that needs to go through here would get really hot and I would potentially, light something on fire. This takes the voltage up, so it takes the amperage down and it makes everything stay just a little bit cooler. But I want to change this for an actual power supply. This right here does everything that guy does, except it's got like a knob and a screen, so I can select how much power I want it to actually do. So you can see I got a little knob. I can like actually tell my car which voltage I want so that I can power different electronics without needing to connect them to an AC outlet. So rather than having them all tied together on some weird bolt, I'm going to tie them all together on the fuse box panel right here. See, this looks much better. We got a little loop here, we got a little loop here. This goes in the fuse box. And then up here, let me see if you guys can see this. You can see that I can change voltage, I can change amperage, I can change all of the things that would come out through here. Now all I've got to do is connect this wire to the existing wires that were down there. Update, I cannot have this on the side right there because these cables are too short to reach. I need to keep this like right here. For a lot of the things here, I'm going to need to cut new wires just to be able to make everything reach properly. And I don't have wire trimmer, so what I'm using is I'm using this razor blade, and I'm just going to put it on the edge of the wire, and I'm going to slide it back and forth. Then we can just slide the correct connector on the top of it, and then use the little crimp tool that we have to pinch the metal down. One end will go in the negative end of the fuse box, and the other end will go into the power supply like that. And now we just keep doing that for all of the many wires that we now need to reconnect. Like this wire, for example, needs to be super short, so they can just go connect like that. Tiny little baby wire. So one of the things that I don't like about this is that it came with these really big, bulky connectors. I much prefer using smaller connectors like this. So I'm basically just chopping these things off and making my own connectors. They come in these little plastic things like this. So we'll take one from here, we'll slide this on the two of them. These connectors, they basically work like Legos. Like you've got a red one and you've got a black one. Just a second, let me put the camera down. And they slide into each other just like Legos. And you've got a connector right there. It's pretty nifty. When you've got the two wires and they're connected to the thing, what they do, just a second, let me put this in my mouth. And now you've got one singular connector. There we go. Let's put this guy back where he goes. This new connector should be able to support up to 45 amps. You know, I can't tell, but I'm pretty sure this is messier than it was when I started. And now nothing works. So next problem, all of these wires, these are the things that actually run into the cabin of my car. Like this is the heated seat, this is the light, this is the cigarette port. None of these things are actually long enough to reach the new spot because they were all like crammed right here. So I've got to cut the ends off them. I've got to like extend them out because I'm not going to rerun wires. That's not happening. Okay, I want to show you guys why all of this is actually worth doing, specifically this, and it all comes down to my heater right here. During the winter, it gets really cold in my car, and having extra heat is useful. Just a sec, I've got a lot of stuff in here. Okay, there's not really a place for me to put any of this stuff. But this is my heater that I use during the winter. The problem with this is it doesn't have a thermostat. It's either on or completely off. So that means it's either full blast, putting out all of the energy it can, or it's not going at all. Let me plug this in and show you what I can do now. Plug you in there. So this is still on full blast. But because I am able to control the voltage of this, I can literally come back here. Right now, this is drawing about 70 watts. But if I want to increase this, watch this. If I want more heat, I can just turn this up a little bit. You can hear it, yep, oh, it's going up. And if I want less heat, but I still want it to be on, like I still want to be able to keep like kind of warm, I can just turn this down a little bit. Now I have a thermometer built into my car, or a thermostat built into my car. It's really only useful in situations where I want to conserve battery life, because typically you want it to be as hot as possible to get the car warm. But if I don't want to kill the battery in like 5 hours, being able to turn that down will increase the duration. So I could possibly leave that heater going overnight because I'm able to turn it down now. Before this thermostat, my heater would kill the battery in about 7 hours. But because I've got this, I can double or triple that if I wanted to. Now it's just a matter of cleaning up the area and putting everything back. One thing I was thinking, I'm not entirely sold on it, but I was considering putting the fridge down there, using the extra space from my wheel well and have like a depressed fridge, have it like right across here. Obviously there's already stuff there with like my jack and my jack stands and all my car equipment. I could possibly move that though. I'm not sold, but I think that would be an interesting place. I think it would be hard to get to because that means anytime I wanted to use the fridge, I would need to move everything out of the way. Yeah, okay, so that's a bad spot. Now I could put it right here. I think it's about this big. I could put it right here, but then I've got to find another place for my clothes and my cooking. I'm gonna have to rearrange my trunk if I want to make this work. We will side table that for a second, and we have some more electrical work we've got to do in the car, actually. One thing that I know is that I don't need this anymore. This is just taking up space. It did good. It kept my beans from freezing in Alaska, but we're done with it. The new fridge that we get should also act as an insulator to keep things warm in the really cold winter, so it should act the same as my cooler did. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I wanted to get this fridge installed the other day, but it actually got delayed, so it was not delivered in time, but we have it now. I believe I spent 150 bucks on it on Amazon, and I'm not gonna lie, it's bigger than I thought it would be. We're gonna have to find space for it. No, there were a bunch of options up there. There's like 12 liter, 18 liter, all the way up to like 50 liter. I definitely needed one that was smaller. I probably should have gone for smaller than this. I think this is 12 liter. I think I can also use the top of this as like a cutting board to prepare my food. I think I can use this like a counter space. Let's open this up. This should be, okay, so this is the fridge area. Now this should be able to run, yes, so I can run this from a wall if I were to take this to somebody's house, or I can run this from a 12-volt socket, which I will connect to the battery in a second. Looking at the manual here, it will automatically shut itself off if the battery is getting too low. So if you want to plug something like this into your car's cigarette lighter, this should not kill your starter battery. So I guess that's good. It's not light exactly. So I'm thinking about it. I have a limitation on where I can actually put it because I need to be able to open this lid. Like I can't put it sideways in here because then the lid won't be able to open. I think I need to put it exactly like this. One thing that I know that I don't like is this connector style. This is just really bad. So we're gonna chop this off and we're gonna replace it with the connectors that we did back here. I'm not actually sure which one of these is positive and which one of these is negative. How I'm gonna figure out which one is positive and which one is negative is by just connecting something and seeing if it explodes. If it works properly, then that means that I connected them in the right way. If you start seeing smoke, then that means that I connected it in the wrong way. Touch these two wires to this thing right here. And then I'm gonna take my little USB port, I'm gonna put it in the end right here. If this turns on when I connect it, then it's good. If it doesn't, then that means that I flipped them. Okay, I figured it out. This one is positive, this one is negative. So I'm gonna get some red electrical tape just to be able to remember this. Just wrap it around this wire so that in the future when I'm connecting stuff, I know which one is positive. There we go. Now we'll plug this end into the fridge and we can connect this to any of the other connectors that we've got in the car. This way I don't need to like hardwire anything. I can literally just take this, pop it in, pop it out, and it connects to everything. I've just got to add another wire to the fuse box to make sure that this is protected. Red goes to positive, which is this side, and then black goes to that side. There we go. This is what we'll plug the fridge into from this end of the wire that we just made. Just like that. And then when we want to disconnect them, super easy. Now let's make space for this guy to fit. I can open it. I guess it works. I guess let's power it on. Okay, I can't get it to turn on. If I had to guess, I would say I got my positive and my negative polarity wrong. So I'm just gonna flip the direction of these two. And then this is wrong. The red is black and the black is red. Hopefully nothing starts smoking. Oh, nope, I got it right. Okay, so that means that when I was doing my test to figure out which one was red and which one was black, I totally just fucked up. The reason I put so much effort into adding all of these extra wires is because I know I've got a lot of stuff underneath my trunk here, so I'm probably going to have to consistently be taking the fridge out and putting it back in and taking it out and putting it back in, and having a quick connector that I can just pop in and pop out will make that much easier. So this is currently 91 degrees Fahrenheit. It's hot outside. Not sure if you guys can tell that on camera. That's why we're in the shade, but we can lower this. So I can make this a freezer if I want. I can take this to -4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like, I don't know, -2 degrees Celsius, something like that. Oh wait, no, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing. So I can, this is currently trying to be a freezer. I want this to be like 35 degrees Fahrenheit, just above freezing. Another thing to pay attention to, this doesn't create cold. This isn't something like a heater where a heater can just pump electricity in and make heat. What this does is this uses a series of Freon, basically the same refrigerant that's in the front of your car, and it takes all of the heat and it spits it off with a fan right here, to where this part is going to be really hot in compensation for this part being cold. It's just moving the heat out. So this part of my battery could get kind of hot. I am curious how many cans of soda I can keep cold at one point in time. Okay, so it looks like we can do 5 across. How many horizontally? Maybe. Okay, so we can do 5 across and 3, so that's 15 per layer. We might be able to get a couple more on top of that. I'll probably have something like eggs or lunch meat or something. I'll have the bottom layer be Coke, and then the top layer be food. Oh, it's got a little temperature for how long I need to keep these things frozen. So if I want to keep meat safe, it needs to be freezing. If I want to keep seafood safe, it needs to be below freezing. Vegetables above freezing. So the only thing that if I want to keep like popsicles, I need to keep this below freezing, but everything else can be, what is this? 37 degrees Fahrenheit, I can do that. That works. I want to conserve power. This has 2 modes. This has like a max cooling mode that'll try to get it as cold as it can as fast as possible. And it's also got an eco mode, which will make it to where it takes less power to actually do this. I definitely want this to be an eco mode. It's still less than 50 watts. That's crazy. Basically, that fridge is using as much power as my laptop does when I'm editing a video. So I've just got an extra laptop running in my trunk. That's great. Before I put this fridge in here, I had all of my laundry right here, like my dirty clothes, my clean clothes. I think that I want to change this, because what ends up happening is I will be in here, I'll need to change clothes, I need to put my dirty clothes back on, walk out, get the clean clothes, walk back in, and then change. It would be much better if I moved my clothes toward the front where like my bedding is, and I moved the food toward the back. I could use this as like a chopping board to be able to prepare my food, and have this be for food, and then the front part of my trunk be for clothes. It did come with a wall adapter, so I can run this off of like a plug somewhere, but I'm pretty sure this is just always going to be in my trunk. I can't imagine myself taking this out of my trunk and then putting it somewhere and then putting it back in. So I think that I'm just going to throw this away because it's always going to be running on that battery. This is basically just a 14-volt adapter. Now you'll notice that there's a bunch of just like shit back here, and I could try to organize this and make it look all pretty, or I could just use it. This is an ultra headlight restoration kit. I got this a while ago. You'll notice that my headlights are like really foggy and yucky. Let's go clean them up. Okay, so it looks like they want me to give them, so I need a drill, and a bunch of this is just like different styles of sandpaper and polish. So we're supposed to mask this off so that we protect the paint, but clearly there's already a bunch of damage to the paint. But we've got to sand off all of this yellow corrosion. Okay, now it wants me to get a drill and just like sand all of this stuff off. I have a drill. And then these things attach basically like Velcro. You just put them there and then they stick on. And you've got a sanding disc. My drill actually can't reach some parts of this, so I'm going to come in here by hand. You're really just trying to remove that top layer of oxidation on the headlight. Now with the top layer gone, we need to polish this so that it's super smooth. You can see that there's a whole bunch of scratches in here now. Actually, I'm going to hit it again with the sander. Okay, now we get one of these guys, which is basically just meant for polishing. Slap him on the drill and go to town. Lastly, we used 3000 grit. This basically feels like a sponge. It's so soft. Take this guy off, put you on. Here we go. Even without the clear coat, you can already see how clear it's becoming. For the last step, they want me to put a glove on because we're dealing with clear coat. This stuff right here will make this very clear and it will prevent it from tarnishing in the future. It's basically like transparent paint. Just so you guys can see what they look like before and after. Except looking at it, this side also needs it towards the front headlight and the side headlight. Both of them need to be cleaned. On this one, I guess he's probably replaced this, the previous owner, because this one looks relatively new. While we wait for that to dry, let's go grab ourselves a nice cold Dr. Pepper. Hopefully they're cold. I can feel that it's cold, but it hasn't been enough time, I guess. Like I can feel that it's trying. There's a bunch of water in there. This is basically just transparent paint. There we go. Now we have much better looking headlights, and I don't need to find space to store this because I can just throw this away now. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. This is so easy. The job that I just did should last 2 to 5 years before I need to do it again. Oh, they're getting colder. God, this is so nice. God, to be able to have cold Dr. Pepper out in the middle of nowhere. This is fantastic. Here's what I'm thinking. I've got all of my food in the back right here. So my oatmeal, my pancakes, rice, peanut butter, oats, got my water, some chicken. I got some cereal back there just because I don't know where to put it up front. But I think I want all my food up front and then my laundry in the back. Oh shit, I've got to put my eggs in the fridge. I know that in other countries they don't refrigerate their eggs, but we refrigerate our eggs here, and everything on Google says that if they started refrigerated, you should keep them refrigerated. So my eggs are going in the fridge. Getting the one that's got the combination of peanut butter and jelly in the same thing makes it easier than trying to maintain 2 bottles of peanut butter and jelly. In some of my other videos, like the Alaska series, for example, you watched me do a lot of cooking in my car. And so you probably get the impression that cooking inside my cabin with like my seats and all that stuff is a good idea. But if you've been watching for longer than that, you know it's a really bad idea because you end up getting stuff spilled everywhere, crumbs get places, rice falls all over everything. I do much prefer cooking out here because then if I spill something, it's not as catastrophic as spilling it on my seats. I've also got a lot more room to work. I'm not gonna like accidentally bump something and have the whole thing fall over. So having this be my kitchen is better. The only downside to this is once it gets really cold in the winter, this is gonna be a lot harder to do. So I need to stay in warm places, I suppose. So I'm thinking about it, and I think the best place for my bread actually is in the fridge. Not because I think bread needs to be cold, but because if I put it anywhere else, it's likely to get squished because I've got a bunch of stuff. I don't think it'll be squished if I put it in the fridge. Here we go, with everything put back in the trunk, this is the way it looks. We've got my clothes right here, my refrigerator, my food, gas, water, toaster, heater thing. We've got my tools right there and my blankets and bedding in the very back. I think this is good. I've still got a pile of stuff I've got to figure out over there, but this is the final setup. There is one more thing we need to do before this kitchen is ready to go. Let me show you. Let's say I want to pop my toaster out here to make some avocado toast. Where do I plug this into? The thing that I typically plug my stuff into is right here in the front seat. This has the inverter, this has all of the plugs in it, but I don't want to take this out and pull it into the trunk every time I want to cook something. So what we need to do is we need to take an extension cable, we need to route it from this all the way into the back of the trunk right here so I can power my things like my toaster or my skillet just here in the trunk. Now we should be able to pull this guy out just like this. Come on. Now we have access to the carpet. I just need to pull it up. I think I want the extension cable coming out of like right here, so I'm gonna cut a hole, feed the extension cable through, and then feed it into the port. When I first got this car and I started cutting into it to do all of my electrical work, cutting into the carpets and whatnot, a bunch of people commented that I'm hurting the resale value and I'll never be able to get my money back. I am never selling this car. Okay, I gotta pull this out of here. It's too heavy, it's weighing the carpet down. I also noticed that underneath the carpet here, there's liquid, like it's kind of wet underneath the carpet. Why is the bottom of everything in this car wet? Yeah, like it's super moist down there. There we go. Now we just need to route this into the trunk. It'll reach. If you'll remember from my Alaska trip, we still have the plug that goes to the oil heater down here. I've just hidden it up at top because I don't need it during the summer, but we can still use that once it gets cold outside. Now let's just feed this under the carpet. We can just put this to the side for right now and then keep feeding the wire through. We just need to get this part into the trunk back here. These are the wires to the lights, the Christmas lights that I have right here. Okay, and now we need to go into the trunk and we need to pull it from that side, I think. Which means I probably need to take everything out of the trunk because I need to get in there to reach this cable. I'm gonna try to reach it without pulling anything out. Come on, let's go. I don't think my chances are very good. Whoa, I got it. That's nifty. Now I can come back here and start putting everything away. I could put this behind the carpet and like do this all covert, but it's not that big of a deal. Here we go. Whenever I want to actually like use my toaster or my skillet, I would just go into the front, push the button to turn it on, and then this will give me power. I'm gonna tuck it in right here so I can just put my thing in. And then on the front side, I just put the battery there and then plug this in. There is one additional thing I want to do before we call it a day. Okay, one problem that I've noticed, the only USB ports that I actually have in my car that work are these guys right here. It's a USB and a USB-A. This is actually not enough for me because I've got a bunch of things that I need to charge. I've got this, I've got my headphones, I've got my laptop, I've got my phone. I want to add more USB ports, which is where this guy comes in. It's basically just 2 extra USB ports. I want to put it into the thing right there like that. So I got to drill a hole for the wires to go through. I would typically use something like a drill saw for this, but I just need a small hole for 2 wires to go through, so this is perfectly fine. Perfect, like that. Then we take the red and the black wire and we feed them through the hole that we just made. God damn it, drill. It comes with 2 screws for us to screw this into the wall. I'm not sure if this is meant for cars, but whatever, it works. And then you just pop the little cover on to hide the screws, and you've got a USB port. I actually need to wire it up to the battery back there, but that's not a big deal. There we go, we got connectors on there. Then we'll connect a big long black wire to this side, and a big long red wire to this side. And then these guys can get connected to the battery. Let's go ahead and test, make sure everything still works. Plug the Christmas lights back in. And lastly, let's make sure our new USB port, oh, I see the light in there. I think that means it's working. I will try to plug my phone in. Fantastic, USB ports work. Now I should be able to charge all of my tiny little stuff easier without needing to like break out battery packs. Okay, there we go. And now we've got power to the trunk. You know, actually I should probably test it. To do that, we're gonna use this battery charger for my drill. Hey, it's flashing green, we've got power. Good shit, everything works like I thought it did. There we go, the car is now ready for extended road trips. I don't know how I was doing mechanically, but at least my food is set up and my electrical system is built. We will start the road trip very soon. I'm just waiting on my driver's license to get here. Mine expired when I was in Europe. I got it when I was 16. You have to wait like, it's been 10 years since I've thought about this, so I got a new one. It should be here in the mail sometime soon. As soon as my new license gets here, we can hit the road.